everyone, Professor Cameron here. And what we're going to be working on this week is we're going to be modeling this bracket here. And we're going to be covering some new tools for this and some new modeling techniques. We're going to cover a tool called Dynamic Mirror. We're going to design parts for multiple configurations, and we're going to learn how our sketch planes alter our part and things we need to watch out for. Once we're done with this, we're actually going to take this and transition into creating part drawings. So that's what we're going to do in the second video of this project here. So we're going to break this up into two halves. Today we're just going to start with modeling this piece. So what we can do is we can start this like we always do and create a new part file. And whenever we create a new part file, we want to set our units, and we're going to be working in inches for this. Now the first bit that we're going to model is going to be this oblong set of, I don't know, I guess you call them tabs or wings here. So what we can do is, in our model, we can select our top plane. Right like that. Now before we start drawing, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a reference line, because when we model this, we're going to use the mirror tool, or a variation of the mirror tool. So we're going to select our line tool, and from the drop-down menu, we're going to select center line. And we're just going to run a center line straight through our origin. Now as we draw, like I said, we're going to use a tool called Dynamic Mirror. And what that does is it mirrors our sketches while we're drawing them. It's kind of neat. What we're going to do is we're going to come up to Tools, Sketch Tools, and then Dynamic Mirror. It's going to ask us to select a line that we want to mirror over. That is going to be this center line that we just drew. And you'll see these hash marks here. That's indicating that a dynamic mirror is active. So what we can do now is we can grab our regular line tool. We can start somewhere above the origin, but on this line. We can just draw a line straight out to the right. And notice what happens there. We drew in this line, but at the same time it mirrored it and put it in on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but underneath the origin. So we're going to have two of these. One on top, one on bottom. We're going to create an arc here. We're going to come up to our arc tool, and we are going to select the tangent arc tool. We're going to select this top endpoint. And you notice how it's drawing this arc here. We're going to connect that down to the bottom. Right like that. It's going to mirror on the other side and fill that in as well. And then we can go ahead and grab our circle tool and put that right on this center point right here. And with any luck, it should dynamically mirror on the other side as well. And that looks pretty good. So what we can do is, once we have this, we can go ahead and smart dimension it. We're going to dimension from center point to center point, and we're going to set that distance to 5. We are going to set the diameter of this small hole here to 1/2 inch. And then we're going to set the radius of this arc to 1. And that looks pretty good. Now, our sketch is fully defined. However, it's still blue, and that's because we didn't tell it where the origin is. And you'll notice, when I drag this up, it's moving the whole sketch. So what we're going to do, we have a few ways we can fix this. We can grab a center line and draw it right from the origin here to our center point of our circle. Now, if yours is slightly off center, you can make that line horizontal, and it should snap that. But this is the effect that we want here. Now, once we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this up 1/2 inch. Right like that. Now, the reason why we wanted to locate the origin in the center of our sketch here is because that's going to give us a plane that runs right through the middle of this, lengthwise. And that's the surface that we're going to create our next step on. So we've got a plane that runs right through the center of this, our front plane. We're going to go ahead and create a sketch on that. We are going to grab our center point arc tool. We're going to click right on the origin, go out to the side, click, and just drag that around right like that. So we want those to start and end on this bottom edge of our piece here. We're going to grab a line and connect those two endpoints. Right like that. So we've got this sketch sitting in the center of our part. We are going to use our Smart Dimension tool and set the diameter, the radius of this arc to 1.75. Right like that. Now, once we have this, we need to extrude it. So we're going to go to our Features tab, Extruded Boss Base, and we're going to extrude this to 2.5 inches. However, if we just type in 2.5 inches, it's going to extrude it out one side only. What we want is for this to be split, half going out the front, half going out the back. For that, we're going to do a mid-plane extrusion. The overall length is the same, 2.5 inches. It's just splitting it up, half going forward, half going back. We want to make sure that Merge Results is checked, and we can select OK. Right like that. Now, as we go along, what we're going to do is we're going to model this so that it exists in a couple different configurations. And you'll see what I mean about that in a second. But so we don't get our features confused, what we're going to do is we're going to rename these features here. So on our first one here, Boss Extrude 1, we're just going to give it 2 slow, deliberate clicks. And we can name this Base. And the second one, we can call this Circular Extrusion. And then we'll just keep this practice as we go along. Now, in our reference model here, we have this round cut through this. We're actually going to model this so that it has a round cut and that it has a square cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this front surface right here and create a sketch. We are going to grab our corner rectangle tool, start on this bottom edge here, and then just draw a rectangle on the face. We are going to Smart Dimension this to 1 inch tall, 2 inches in overall length, and we're going to dimension from the origin to one of the sides, and we're going to set that at 1 inch. Right like that. Once we have this, we can cut this all the way through. We can go to Features, Extrude Cut, and then do a through all extrusion. And that's just going to punch it all the way out the part. We can rename that Cut Extrude one to Rectangular Cut. Just something vaguely descriptive so we know what it does. What we're going to do now is we're going to poke a hole right through the top of this. If we look at our finished model here, we've got this little vent hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this part to the bottom, and we're going to create a new sketch on this surface right here. Now this is actually going to cause an issue for us, and we'll remedy that later on. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a sketch on this surface, and then just right around this origin, we're going to draw a circle. And smart to mention that to 0.25 in diameter. You guys can probably see now why pre-planning your model and designing it with certain planes and certain features can be advantageous to you. Because for a lot of these, all we've done is just dimension right to the origin or sketch right around the origin. That saves us a little bit of hassle, saves us some dimensioning. So it's a good habit to get into. But once we have that circle drawn, we're going to go ahead and cut that all the way through as well. So extrude cut through all. Right like that. And we can rename that quarter-inch hole. Now here is where we are going to hide this rectangular cut and put in a circular one. So the way we hide this is in our feature tree here, we have rectangular cut. What we're going to do is we're going to right click on that and select this icon right here, suppress. What this does is it just temporarily turns it off. It doesn't delete it, but it just temporarily turns it off so that it's not impacting our model any. And if I want to turn it back on, I can unsuppress it. So suppress and unsuppress is how we turn on and off features without deleting them permanently. So what we're going to do is we're going to suppress this. And what do we notice that happens when we do this? Our quarter-inch hole is suppressed also. The reason that happens is because this quarter-inch hole, we drew it on this surface. Well, if we suppress this rectangle, that surface no longer exists, so this hole has nowhere to be drawn. So that gets suppressed as well. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to change the surface that we draw this hole on. What we're going to do is we're going to come to our quarter-inch hole feature and look at our sketch. We're going to right-click on that, and we're going to select this second icon here, Edit Sketch Plane. Now you'll see we have it drawn on the roof of this rectangle. From our drop-down menu here, we're going to select our top plane. And what that's going to do is it's just going to take that sketch and move it from this roof of our rectangle to this top plane here. And this is good because it won't rely on any geometry now to exist. That circle will exist in its own right. So we can go ahead and select OK. And you'll see it just popped it right down here. Now, with any luck, we should be able to suppress this rectangular cut. And that hole still exists, so that's good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw that circular cut. going to create a sketch on this surface. And then what we are going to do is just grab a circle. We're going to put our circle right on the origin and draw it out right like that. Just 1 second while I check dimensions. And what we're going to do is we're going to smart dimension this circle to 2.5. Now we're going to talk about why we do it this way when we do our drawing, but this isn't actually going to cause a problem for us, because it's going to cut out what we need right here, and then it's going to cut out this area under here as well. Well, this area under here isn't cutting anything, so it's just going to cut empty space, which isn't a problem for us. We're going to go ahead to Features, Extruded Cut, and Through All. Right like that. And that looks pretty good. Now, if we want to go ahead and toggle back and forth between our two parts, or our two features, what we can do is we can suppress this cut that we just made and unsuppress that rectangular feature. And then if we want to go back, we just do that opposite. Now, why would we do it this way as opposed to making two separate parts? And there are reasons that we're going to get into when we start doing drawings why this is actually preferable. Essentially what it does is, in our inventory of 3D modeled parts, it cuts down on the number of parts that we have. It's not uncommon in industry to have parts in different configurations. But we'll touch more on this, and I think it'll be a little bit more clear when we do the drawing. But for now, all we have to do is assign our material, and this is going to be ASTM A36. It's a type of steel, usually hiding under alloy steel. For some reason, this can be hard to find. If you look for alloy steel, it'll be right underneath it. And then if you want to, you can rename that last feature that we did, and we can call that circular cut. So what you guys can do now is you can go ahead and save this model. In our next video, we're going to talk about creating part drawings from this, and how our part drawings and our models are actually linked together, and some benefits that we have from that. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. And as always, have a nice day.